Why are you here? You said you had work today.
I found myself muttering that upon seeing my husband, Matthew, where he wasn't supposed to be. I am currently at the municipal office. I came here to submit the birth registration for our child who was born the other day. Matthew, who had promised to submit it together, said he had sudden work and didn't come. So, he shouldn't be here. While the clerk in front of me was checking the birth registration for any deficiencies, I couldn't take my eyes off Matthew. Since I came early in the morning, there weren't many other customers. Thanks to that, I could clearly hear Matthew's voice speaking at a counter a little distance away. Although hidden in Matthew's shadow and not visible, it seemed like there was a woman right next to him. I saw the clerk hand over several booklets to them.
Thank you.
I held my breath in surprise. I thought that maybe the relationship between my husband and this woman was an affair. After all, it's unusual for a man to accompany a woman to collect maternity and childbirth information unless he's her husband. Perhaps a pregnant woman's father might accompany her, but from what I could see, this woman and Matthew didn't appear to be father and daughter by age. Matthew doesn't have a sister, so it's unlikely to be a relative.
Next year, our first child will be born. I'm really looking forward to it,
Matthew said with a smile. Then, what about the child I struggled to give birth to? My name is Sarah. 37 years old. I work alone as a secretary and handle miscellaneous tasks at the company run by my husband, Matthew, who is 3 years older than me. Matthew and I met nearly 10 years ago and started dating. At that time, Matthew was just an ordinary employee working at a general company. I was also working as an employee at a general company, but I quit my job when Matthew proposed. It was Matthew's wish for me to quit.
I'm thinking of starting my own business. I want you to quit her current job and help me with my business. I want you to support me in both public and private life. Will you marry me?
The idea of starting a business, wanting me to quit my current job, wanting to get married. All of these shocking things were thrown at me at once, and although I was confused, I accepted everything because I loved Matthew.
Understood. I'll support you, Matthew, with all my might from now on.
Matthew often talked about wanting to start his own business, so I had somewhat anticipated this future.
Sarah. Thank you. I knew you'd say that.
Matthew was very pleased. Thus, we decided to get married, and I quit the company I had been working at since graduating from university to help with Matthew's business. We worked hard together to get the company off the ground. Initially, Matthew frequently thanked me, but gradually he began to adopt a condescending attitude towards me.
I'm taking care of you. I'm providing for you and employing you so you can live. Be more grateful to me.
He started making such top-down statements and looked down on me. Yet, I couldn't bring myself to dislike him because he was someone I once loved, so I just endured it. When the company finally stabilized, Matthew said,
"Let's have a child soon. You're turning 35 after all."
So, we started thinking about having a child. However, after a year with no success, we began visiting hospitals for fertility treatments. It was hard, but at 37, I finally got pregnant. Matthew cooperated well with the fertility treatments, and we worked hard together, so we were truly happy when we found out about the pregnancy. Matthew was also very pleased.
We did it. A child is finally going to be born.
Matthew was moved to tears. He also started saying, "Don't overdo it until you're in the stable period." I was happy that Matthew's attitude seemed to return to how it used to be a bit, and I cherished our happiness. Morning sickness was tough, but Matthew, though unaccustomed, made meals with all his might, and I managed to get through it. As the baby in my belly grew healthily, Matthew suddenly said something outrageous one day. It was really sudden.
"Hey, there's a higher chance of having a child with disabilities because of late pregnancy. How about we don't have the child?"
I was shocked by the suddenness.
What did you just say? So, that's why I'm saying, given the high risks of late pregnancy, we should just give up on having a child.
At Matthew's words, I felt a surge of anger, seeing red.
Suddenly, what are you saying? This child is alive. We can't just give up on it. What do you think life is? Don't say such ridiculous things.
When I yelled, Matthew fell silent and said nothing more. In my anger, I spent that day holed up in my room without speaking to Matthew. The next day, Matthew said, "Sorry about yesterday." But it felt insincere. I wondered why he suddenly changed his attitude so much when he had been so happy about the pregnancy. Gradually, Matthew started treating me coldly, and the demeaning comments, like before the pregnancy, began to reappear.
Don't get spoiled just because you're pregnant. Do your job properly. I won't tolerate any negligence.
I know. I've never slacked off. I said so while sighing deeply in my heart. But, believing that Matthew would become kind again once the baby was born, I somehow got through the days. I often discussed Matthew's behavior with my parents and my brother James, who listened to my concerns. Then, a couple of days past my due date, labor pains began, and I asked Matthew to drive me to the hospital. "Matthew, the intervals between labor pains are getting shorter. Please take me to the hospital by car." I asked Matthew, enduring the pain, but he looked annoyed.
Ugh, that's a hassle. I'll call a taxi for you, just go by taxi.
I was shocked, having assumed Matthew would drive me.
Well, a taxi is fine, but you're coming with me, right? Huh? I have urgent work, so I can't. It doesn't make a difference whether I'm there or not. I'm not interested in being present at the birth. I'll call you a taxi, so just wait a bit.
Matthew's attitude saddened me, but the pain of labor pains soon overwhelmed everything else. I went to the hospital alone by taxi and eventually gave birth to a healthy boy. However, Matthew did not show up for the birth, during the hospital stay, or even at discharge. After being discharged, I returned to my parents' home. My parents and James doted on the baby and took care of me. Matthew was supposed to submit the birth registration, but he said he had sudden work this morning and didn't show up. The background noise on the phone sounded like a shopping mall, so it was probably a lie. But pointing it out wouldn't make him come anyway. So, I had my parents drive me to the municipal office to submit the registration myself. After submitting the birth registration, the municipal officer congratulated me with a smile, handing over various guides and souvenirs. As I was putting them in my bag to leave, I spotted Matthew. Incredibly, he was with a young woman, collecting maternity and childbirth information.
Matthew! What?
I muttered in shock, in a soft voice. And then Matthew cheerfully told the municipal officer, "We're having our first child next year." What? I was confused, but soon realized Matthew must have been cheating. Understanding that his cold behavior was due to his affair, I decided to divorce him. Matthew and the young woman, having collected their materials, started walking towards the exit. To confirm the truth, I hurried over to Matthew and the woman and gently tapped Matthew's shoulder. Matthew turned around, caught sight of me, and showed a look of astonishment.
Sarah! Why?
It's not about why. You didn't submit the birth registration, so I came to do it. Now, what's this? Who is this woman? You were collecting maternity and childbirth information, weren't you? Explain. Despite my resolve to stay calm, my emotions got the better of me, and I pressed for answers. Matthew, avoiding my gaze, stuttered,
Answer me properly. You're neglecting me and the baby, what are you doing?
I yelled, and Matthew froze for a few seconds before defiantly responding.
I've found true love. Ashley is much younger than you, 24 years old. We met at a bar. Remember, the one you and I went to a few times.
Then, the young woman with a vulgar smile said,
Hi there. I'm Ashley. I've heard about you, but you really are plain, aren't you?
Said, shaking with anger.
Is this woman really pregnant with Matthew's child?
I asked Matthew.
Yes. Unlike you, Ashley got pregnant naturally. You couldn't get pregnant at all, so we spent a lot of money on fertility treatments. Ashley is superior to you as a woman. You're defective as a woman.
Matthew laughed as he lined up words to hurt me.
That's right. I'm superior to you as a woman. I'm younger and prettier, and I got pregnant naturally. I'm more deserving to be the wealthy Matthew's wife.
Ashley joined Matthew in belittling me. By the way, isn't your makeup too light? Even if you just had a baby, you should take more care of your appearance. Especially since you have such a plain face. Ashley took my silence as an opportunity to hurl more insults at me.
Young mothers' children look healthier and definitely cuter than those born to older women. Sarah is no longer needed.
Matthew laughed as if it was all a joke. His words clarified why he suddenly became cold during my pregnancy. His affair with the young woman, Ashley, meant he no longer needed to cling to my baby. That's why he suddenly tried to make me give up on giving birth. Too despicable. I felt my feelings for Matthew cooling to below freezing. And then, I demanded a divorce.
Please, let's get a divorce.
Matthew looked surprised for a moment, but then laughed.
Fine, I'll gladly divorce you.
Later, I went to get the divorce papers and met with Matthew immediately. He filled them out with sloppy handwriting and handed them to me.
Here. Since I've written it, you submit it. But really, you've aged even more after pregnancy and childbirth. It's pitiful compared to Ashley. After all, younger women are better. Mind your own business. Goodbye. I'll come back later to pick up my belongings. And of course, I won't be helping with the company ever again. I don't need your help. I can manage just fine as the president. Don't be so full of yourself. Is that so? Then, I'll go submit the divorce papers.
After saying that, I submitted the divorce application. Ashley had a triumphant look on her face until the end.
Pitiful. Sorry for my complete victory being so cute.
And Matthew and Ashley left, snuggled up to each other as if to show off. I immediately called James and told him what happened. Then, James helped me pack my belongings when I returned home. I had sent the essentials to my parents' house for the homecoming birth, but naturally, there were still many of my things at the house. After packing, I went back to my parents' house with James. Having discussed Matthew with my parents and James before, they all were very supportive.
Big sis, you did the right thing divorcing that guy.
James said, and my parents smiled. You've been through a lot. Let's raise the child together from now on.
Thank you all so much. I'm sorry for the trouble. I'm counting on you from now on.
Since then, despite the challenges of first-time parenting, I've been enjoying my days. My son is truly adorable, and though Matthew is now someone I despise, I'm grateful to him for allowing me to meet my son. My son was showered with love from me, my parents, and James, and he grew up healthy and strong. Then, about 3 months later, Matthew suddenly showed up at my parents' house. I reluctantly dealt with him at the entrance.
What do you want all of a sudden? Hey, Sarah. Come back home. And help with the company again.
Matthew said curtly.
Huh? Ah, I get it. The company isn't doing well, right? Yes. Ever since you left, all our clients have stopped dealing with us. That's why the company is in such trouble now.
Matthew exclaims. Yes, the truth is, the company was doing well all thanks to me. I had been desperately pleading with various parties to keep things together, which is why the company had been stable until now. Matthew, being the president, would lord it over me, pushing all the work onto me, despite having no real talent for management himself. Thus, after we divorced and I stopped helping out, the company's management probably took a nosedive.
Oh. When you filed for divorce, you said everything would be fine as long as you, the president, were there. It's laughable how quickly the management has deteriorated without me. Shut up!
Matthew shouts in frustration.
Everyone keeps saying they can't deal with me. That you are better and more competent. What the hell? I'm the president.
It's because you never took your work seriously. You pushed everything onto me, even when I was pregnant. I say coldly, and Matthew groans.
What about your mistress? Ashley, was it? She could help you.
Ashley left as soon as the company started to falter. I couldn't help but burst out laughing.
Don't laugh. Ashley liked me because I was a wealthy president, and as soon as things went south, she took the kid and left. She's the worst. She was only after the money.
Matthew says spitefully, then suddenly pleads in a wheedling voice. I really only need Sarah. Come back home. I think the company can recover if you return. Everyone says they'll listen to you. I need you, Sarah. Please, I apologize for everything that happened.
Don't just say things that suit you. There's no way I'm coming back. I don't care about the company. You're the president, so you deal with it. And stop with that wheedling voice, it's disgusting.
I firmly reject him. Don't say that. You can bring the child too. By the way, what was the gender? It was a girl, right? I had already informed Matthew of the gender at birth through email, but he couldn't even remember that, prompting me to sigh heavily.
You really are the worst. No matter what you say, I won't return, nor will I let you see the child. Also, I'll be filing for compensation soon. Ha! Compensation! What compensation?
Matthew is shocked, raising his voice in surprise.
Why are you surprised? It's only natural to claim compensation after being cheated on and divorced. I was busy just after the baby was born, but I had already consulted a lawyer, and proceedings are underway. I'll be filing the claim soon. Wait a minute. Compensation, that's... The company is in trouble, and I have no savings left. I don't care about that. I have the right to claim compensation. If you're so against it, shall I claim child support as well?
I state firmly, and Matthew seems to want to say something.
I hadn't claimed child support because I didn't want you involved with the child, and I wasn't planning to. But after talking to a lawyer, I learned that child support is a right for the child. So, I've decided to claim it. If you keep objecting, perhaps I should ask for a lump sum payment. That way, there's no risk of you stopping payments. Hey! That's impossible! Please don't make that claim!
Matthew pleads, sweating profusely.
Then please leave. I'll contact you about the compensation later.
With that, I closed the front door. Next, I decided to investigate Ashley. I visited the bar where the two had met. A familiar place I also frequented, and the manager was an acquaintance. After explaining the situation, I learned more about Ashley. She was a regular, and often got so drunk that the manager had to take her home. With the manager's knowledge of her workplace, I gathered a lot of information about Ashley. Despite all this, Matthew showed no signs of paying the compensation. So, I visited the law firm and asked Mr. Johnson, a very reliable and competent lawyer, to intervene. Thanks to Mr. Johnson's help, the compensation claim was smoothly processed, and the matter was resolved. After several meetings with Mr. Johnson, we gradually grew attracted to each other and eventually started dating. Ashley, somehow catching wind of my relationship with Mr. Johnson, tried to steal him from me. I heard from Mr. Johnson that she showed up at the law firm where he works and fervently approached him.
Hey, Mr. Johnson. Wouldn't you rather switch to someone young and cute like me instead of that old woman? I'm definitely better for you,
she said in a coquettish voice, but Mr. Johnson made his feelings clear.
I'm not fond of women like you. Besides, Sarah is far more wonderful than you could ever be. If you're just here to joke around, please leave.
Ashley, flustered by Mr. Johnson's cold demeanor.
Why? I thought I could easily take Matthew away. I can't believe I'm losing to such a woman.
She muttered in a trembling voice and left the law firm with unsteady steps. Due to the commotion between me, Matthew, and others at the municipal office being witnessed by many staff and patrons, rumors about Matthew and Ashley quickly spread. The rumors generated more rumors, especially since Matthew was a CEO. He remains a hot topic to this day. Among the onlookers were people related to Matthew's work, so his bad reputation spread rapidly, leading to his isolation from any support. Eventually, the compensation payment to me drained his funds completely, pushing his business to closure. Ashley, apparently unable to bear losing to me, continued to obsess over Mr. Johnson, frequently visiting his law firm. Mr. Johnson consistently rejected her, but Ashley,
I can't stand losing to her like this. My pride won't allow it. Choose me.
She cried and screamed, and her persistence led to the police being called, resulting in a ban from the premises. Moreover, it turned out the child Ashley had wasn't Matthew's. Ashley had been involved with multiple men and ended up pregnant without knowing the father. She wanted to marry Matthew, who was wealthy, so she lied about the child being his.
I was deceived. I left Sarah and the child because Ashley said she was pregnant with my child. This is outrageous. What about my life?
Furious, Matthew and Ashley are currently in court. Meanwhile, I became engaged to Mr. Johnson.
Sarah, I promise to make you and the child truly happy.
He proposed to me. Mr. Johnson's sincere character was recognized by my parents and James. Blessed by everyone, we started our married life. Not long after our marriage, he was transferred, so my son and I moved with him. In a new place, while busy with housework and childcare, I'm living a happy life with my kind husband and adorable son.